All right, Season 1 of The Mandalorian is done, so let's break down the final episode in The Good, the Bad, and the Mandalorian. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
Alright, so I binge watched the second season of You on Netflix this weekend. It's really good. It's really good. I may have liked it more than season 1, to be honest. I really enjoyed it. So if you got nothing to watch, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend You season 1 and 2. It's great. Basically, it's, if you ever watched the show Dexter, something very similar, but instead of being in the mind of a serial killer, you're in the mind of a stalker. It is a very, very enjoyable show. I really, really liked it. Anyway, I just want to get that out of the way. Let me just, before I forget, you can listen to the podcast anywhere. SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, the iHeartRadio app, Google Podcast, Podcast Addict, everywhere. Just type in Super Dario World Podcast. You'll find it right there. Any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram and at Super Dario World on Instagram as well. Also, follow me on Facebook, Super Dario World. I update everything there. So, like I said, comments, questions, suggestions, those are the easiest way for you to contact me. Anyway, let's get to it. Let's break down the final episode, Redemption, in The Good, the Bad, and the Mandalorian.
I like those odds.
All right, so we had a short but exciting season 1. Overall, I really enjoyed the show. It had its ups and downs. I've complained about it a lot, but overall, I think it was really good. It was really good for the franchise in general. Highly enjoyable, highly entertaining, and it introduced a whole bunch of great new characters into the Star Wars universe. So let's break it down a little bit, right? Let's start off with the good. All right, so the conversation between the two scout troopers in the beginning was hysterical. I was crying laughing. It was so stupid. It was so ridiculous. It had no reason for being in there, but I loved it. I love that stupid style comedy. I don't know why. It was great. And the fact that they punched Baby Yoda 3 times, it's insanity. I loved it. Especially the guy at the end who straight up just sucker punched him. Like, bit me. Boom. It was great. I didn't see it coming, but I loved it. It was one of those things that I didn't know I wanted, but I didn't even know I wanted it, but I'm so happy that I got it. It was great. I really, really enjoyed the fact that they couldn't hit anything with their blasters. There was a lot there. There was a lot in that stupid little conversation that, I don't know. It was just ridiculous. It was completely ridiculous, and I loved it. So, also, I liked the villain. I like Moff Gideon. I didn't feel like he did enough yet in this episode, but he kind of gave. Actually, he's the guy who's given us the most background on anything. I like that he finally gave us the name for the Mandalorian, Din Djarin. I hope that's how you say it. We finally learned a little bit about Kara and the fact that she's from Alderaan, which now makes sense why she hates the Empire so much, because you guys remember, Alderaan, that's the planet where Leia was a princess of, and that it got blown up by the Death Star. And so now her backstory makes a little bit of sense. We know a little bit more about Apollo's character. I forget his name. Grief something, that he was a magistrate. So dude gave us a lot of backstory, right? That was great. That was very enjoyable. It helps. It helps build the world, right? It builds up the world, it builds up the characters, makes them more interesting, gives us a little bit more insight into them. That was good. And also, I gotta say it, the Darksaber, right? The return of the Darksaber. I'm so happy when things come together. When I decided, a few episodes back, I decided to talk about, in the segment The Mandalorian, I like giving a little bit of a background about certain things, and I decided to talk about the Darksaber because it's related to the Mandalorians, and I'll get into this a little bit more in this in this segment of The Mandalorian, but I just love that it was there. I love that it's introduced. I love that they're actually building on the lore, the whole Star Wars extended universe, and I like that it's going somewhere. I like that we got a villain, and it looks like the stories, they have to explain where the hell the Darksaber came from, right? They have to explain it. And so I like that we're gonna get to see it, or at least somebody's gonna tell us, but most likely they're gonna show it to us. So I really, really, really like that, the Darksaber. Also, I told you it's the coolest looking lightsaber out there. It's more like a blade. It's not like the round ones. It's flat, it's black, it's really cool. I love it. It's my favorite looking lightsaber out there. Love it. Anyway, so that was the good. Let's move on to the bad. All right, so if there's a lot of issues here, and again, I will just go through the timeline, which is what I usually do. So the episode starts with the two Scout Troopers conversation, and then IG-11 shows up to save Baby Yoda. Now, where IG-11 came from, who the fuck knows? How he get there so quickly? Who the fuck knows? But he shows up, and he beats up the Scout Troopers, and he gets the baby back. Now I have issues with the choreography there, mainly because if I see a freaking robot that's coming towards me and I have orders for nobody to come near me, I would have just shot him. I wouldn't have cared. I would have just shot him into oblivion. And the minute he hits my friend, the other guy should have shot him. It was just weird. It was weird. But I get it. It's one of those things where, again, they don't really care about logic. They're just, all right, we want this to happen, and it'll happen because of reasons. Anyway, so whatever. So IG gets Baby Yoda, and then he gets on the speeder, and he heads into town. So, the droid that says that its protocol is to protect the baby goes into town to put the baby in the middle of a firefight. So, yes, let's just say not good writing there. Anyway, but I'll come back to those two. So then we get the story of, we return to kind of the standoff that we got, and in the ending of last episode where Gideon basically tells you who each character is. Now, the explanation of how Gideon knows who they are is a little weird. It's like, oh yeah, he's the dude who came after the planet I was in, so he knows my real name. I mean, unless you had direct interaction with him, I don't see how he would know. I mean, you dudes wear masks and nobody really knows your name. It's a stretch, but fine, I'll allow it. Maybe this dude has like photographic memory or something. If he saw a name and it's like, all right, that's it. And he's like the best detective ever. Batman is even like, dude, this dude's good. So, all right, I'll allow it. The thing that I did not like is that they set up a turret, and then, which by the way, they didn't need that turret there, because you know what they already had? A TIE fighter. And you know what a TIE fighter could have done? Blown that thing into oblivion. Anyway, doesn't matter. So they set up this thing, and they tell him, all right, you have until sundown. So the timeline here gets really weird. So the thing that we understand via Mando, or Din, should I call him Din now? I'll just keep calling him Mando. So the thing that we understood from Mando is that the only reason why they weren't blown into oblivion like the rest of the soldiers, which by the way, it's hysterical that they called it out, like Gideon shot his own men. Yeah, it's he opened fire on his own men. Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird thing, but all right. At least they acknowledged that it was stupid, right? Anyway. So Mando basically says that all right, they clearly they don't have Baby Yoda yet. Otherwise, they would have killed us. Now, this is weird, because the Scout Troopers got Baby Yoda, and then the Scout Troopers reported that they had Baby Yoda. And this is pretty much at the same time. If you remember the parallel editing at the end of the last episode, it was kind of at the same time. So, at what point does Gideon learn that they don't have Baby Yoda? I don't know. It just, either... What's more likely here is that Din, or damn, this is going to be hard, is that Mando was incorrect about the reason why they didn't blast him into oblivion. I think, because the other thing just doesn't make any sense and it's stupid. So I'll just assume that Mando was wrong, because, I mean, you can't be that stupid, right? I mean, you just showed us the Scout Troopers saying that they had the kid, and they were just waiting for orders, so, and nobody reported that they lost the baby, so in Gideon's mind, we saw him. Nobody told him anything. So he should assume that he has the baby already. So again, probably keeping them alive for another reason. This whole giving them till sundown is stupid. I hate it. I've complained about stuff like this a billion times, particularly in Star Wars. You don't give your enemy any time. You don't give them time to set up a plan, to set up more barricades, to do anything. You go in quickly, or you give them like 10 seconds at the most. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, and then dead. That's it. But whatever. Again, they're not paying me, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, so then so Gideon, by the way, is standing in front of all of his troopers, and from what we know, I mean, if he knows anything about the Mandalorian, is that he's a pretty good shot. I mean, we've seen him with this stupid with the freaking sniper rifle that he has. He's actually a pretty good shot. Now, okay, it's logical that somebody might have told him they didn't see him go in there with the rifle, but I mean, would you risk it? Would you risk it? Just standing out there in front of all your troops? Would you risk it? I wouldn't risk it. Anywho, so IG-11, basically, the droid and with the child rush back into town, and they start killing everybody in sight, right? Shooting left and right, hitting bullseyes everywhere they go. Which makes me think, why the fuck won't they just use droids for everything? If they're this fucking talented, if they're that fucking deadly, why don't they just use droids for everything? I mean, it's not like we had a thing called episodes 1, 2, and 3 where we saw the droids and their capabilities, and they weren't actually this talented, but whatever. I mean, that's forgivable. All right? This is a new advanced droid. This is a better droid. It's an even deadlier droid. Why aren't they using them more? You know what I'd do if I lived there? I'd have only freaking droid squadrons. They're more obedient, they're deadlier, they're more efficient, and they probably don't cost as much because you don't have to give maintenance. Well, I mean, you have to give them maintenance, but you don't have to feed them. You don't have to give them like healthcare and stuff like that. You don't have to pay them. So I don't know that. I don't get it. That to me, that droid was just OP. Then they just throw in a speeder bike in there, and for some reason, I guess stormtroopers don't know how to shoot, but for some reason, no stormtrooper can hit them to save their life. Now, this I could be okay with if they would have just had Moff Gideon at one point say, "Don't shoot the child." Something like that. That way, so the troopers are not like aiming at its legs or something. Maybe, but still, like, there were so many troopers there, and I hate this whole thing of when once you hit them by surprise or whatever, that implies that stormtroopers no longer know what to do. I mean, in the real world, cops and soldiers in general, they tend to shoot back pretty quickly, and especially when in situations like a standoff or something, another cop will shoot you pretty quickly. Like, if you do anything stupid, you will get shot pretty quickly. It's safer that way. They don't just get stunned and like lower their weapons and be like, "Oh my god, what is happening?" and then they get shot. That's not how that works. So that always bothers me. Again, no strategy whatsoever, no logic. It bugs me because they're like, "All right, this is gonna look cool." And yeah, sure, it looks cool, but it makes no fucking sense whatsoever. And it really bugs me. It really bugged me. That whole fight thing there really upset me. I understand Mando walking out because he's got Beskar armor, but him walking out all the way to the turret, ripping it out, and then starting to shoot people. Nobody at any point decided, you know what, maybe we should shoot at that guy, before he gets to the turret. But, it was dumb. Then the only guy who decides to shoot him is Gideon for some reason with a blaster, and with one shot makes the whole thing blow up. What's it called? The power core of the turret blow up. One shot. So basically, you're telling me that you bring a turret to battle that if you want to take out not only the turret but all the dudes around it, all you have to do is hit it once in its power and add like the battery next to it, and you take out a whole. That's not a good. The point is, it's not a good weapon. Or it's not smart. And also, we saw it shoot. It wasn't as deadly as the dude presented it to be. I expected that thing to just turn everybody into ceviche. It was really weird. But again, I've given up on the logic of a lot of these things. It's not consistent. It's just very inconsistent. Then they managed to retreat back into the bar, which was already weird as it is. But they retreat into the bar, and Mando's injured and apparently dying. So they send in a flame trooper. Right now, the flame trooper looked really fucking cool. He looked really fucking cool with the red and all that stuff. Looked awesome. But here it was, again, a missed opportunity. a missed opportunity to make Baby Yoda an actual character, not just a prop. Because it's like, all right, Flame Trooper's coming in to defeat everybody. Which, by the way, why would walk in like there's nothing weird going on there with a flamethrower? I don't know. Like, dude just walked in like nothing. Like, you'd think he'd be ready to shoot or something. Also, did Gideon need the guy? Did Gideon need the child alive or not? I'm very confused about that, because you know what would not keep the child alive? Hitting it with a flamethrower. But whatever. That's just little details. I also did not understand why nobody shot at the guy as he was walking in. That's the first thing I would have done if he didn't burn me. But whatever. I can forgive that. But again, missed opportunity to make the child like an actual character. Mando is injured. He's probably dying. And they do turn back to him just to his face, like, and I didn't understand why he didn't just go in to try and save him. Like, I guess, well, actually, this is something that I like. They subverted expectations. Now, I expected when Mando was injured, I was like, all right, well, Baby Yoda's going to heal him, right? And he didn't. So I was like, all right, okay. In fact, instead he used the Force to push back the flames, which was cool. Again, it looked cool, but a moment where you see the child actually care for Mando would have been better. Like, the child freaking out that Mando's injured, I think would have been pretty cool. But all right, they did it differently. And they also subverted the expectation of, I remember I just spoke about this last Monday. I thought, honestly, I told you I was going to tell you what I thought this episode was going to happen. And basically what I thought is that they're going to go collect the Covenant Mandalorians. They're going to come in and they're going to help him out. That's what I thought was going to happen. So when we walk into the whole massacre situation, that was like, wow. All right, I did not see that one coming. And consequences. I like that. So good on them. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so Baby Yoda pushes the flamethrower back and saves everybody. And so now everybody is, well, Kara is put on, I don't know, it's not commanded, but she's now in charge of Baby Yoda, and her and Apollo take the baby, and they're going to try to find the rest of the Mandalorians, right? So they can escort them to a ship. Now, here is another weird part where the IG droid tries to heal, well, not tries to heal, but actually heals the Mandalorian. This is weird. First off, the timeline. Oh wait, I need to get back to something. This really bugged me. I'm checking here in my notes, and I jumped something really big. So they said that the Mandalorians are not a race, but a creed, right? That's something that Mando says. It's not a race; it's a creed. So I'm very confused about that, because at first I'm like, all right. I mean, Mandalore is a planet that existed. It's a thing. Now, we don't know the condition of Mandalore anymore, but I'm guessing they didn't destroy the planet, because we know the things that the Death Star shot, and that one wasn't one of those, at least not that I remember. Anyway, so that thing really threw me off. I guess it's also could be interesting, but it really threw me off because, all right, okay, imagine like the Mandalorians, the warrior Mandalorians are like samurai. So samurai are what you call the warrior, but they're mainly Japanese people. Now, there could be other people who are not Japanese that could be samurai, ergo Tom Cruise, but you don't call Japanese people samurai, right? So a Japanese person can be a samurai, and somebody else could be a samurai as well. But somebody who's not from Japan can't be Japanese. Does that make sense? So here they're saying that a Mandalorian could be a Mandalorian without being a Mandalorian. Does that make any sense? So if you're from the planet of Mandalore, you're a Mandalorian. But if you follow the creed of the Mandalorian, you're also a Mandalorian. So it's possible to be a Mandalorian without being a Mandalorian, but being a Mandalorian. It's also possible to not be a Mandalorian, but be a Mandalorian even though you're not a Mandalorian. Does that make any sense to anybody? Does it give you as big of a headache as it does me? Now, I'm assuming that now it's like, all right, the Mandalorians that are actually just the from the planet of Mandalore are dead, or they've been driven almost to extinction, and so now anybody else that wants to be a Mandalorian can. But instead of calling them a Mandalorian warrior or a samurai, they just took up the name Mandalorian. So okay, all right. Mandalorian is a creed. It's really weird that Apollo has to ask this question because I'm guessing he would have heard of this because, I mean, there's a pretty famous Mandalorian bounty hunter and the dude runs bounty hunters, but whatever. Let's assume it was apparently not that big of a deal in the galaxy. I don't know, man. My hat hurt. My hat hurt from just trying to make that stuff work, but whatever. So, now we have the IG droid trying to heal up Mando, and he's like, "No, leave me. I'm done for." Also, by the way, another question. So Mando was saved by... Well, actually, no. I'll wait for this one. I'll wait for it further on. So the IG droid basically says, "I can take off your helmet because I'm not alive." Whatever. We actually get to see Pedro Pascal. I expected him to be more fucked up. Honestly, I expected him to be more messed up if he said like, "Oh no, I'm done for." And the only thing that the IG droid did was give him a spray. A spray. He sprayed stuff on his skull after being like right next to an explosion. I would think that he has more injuries. Like they could have faked it a little bit more. And also in this whole time, no stormtroopers trying to, storm that bar. I mean, nobody. It was weird. It was ridiculous, but fine. Whatever. A spray in the head heals you from whatever injuries, brain injury or whatever that you had. Okay. All right. You know what? I'm not a medical droid. He's a nurse droid, whatever. But let's move on. So then they go into... They catch up in the tunnels underneath the city, and they manage to make their way to where the covert was, the Mandalorian covert was. And here we see a whole bunch of Mandalorian armors, which, again, was great. First one thing that I love, consequences. Consequences are a great thing. And here we're clearly seeing the consequences of Episode 3. Now, it's not really clear how it happened, but I'll get into that a little bit more in The Mandalorian. And it's also not clear how the armorer survived, but she gives us a little bit more explanation about other stuff. She finally gives the Mandalorian his signet, and we now know what the hell Season 2 is going to be about, because she basically is like, all right, well, you need to return this baby to its family. Well, I don't know what its family is. All right, well, you need to go find the family and then return it to its people. I don't even know what species it is, but you have to figure it out. So here's actually something that's pretty interesting, or at least not really pretty interesting, but I found interesting. Okay. In the flashback, we saw Mando, when droids kill his family and he's saved by Mandalorians, right? We saw that. So that means that it was done by separatists, which means that it happened at one point during the Clone Wars. How, if he was alive and conscious during the Clone Wars, how has he never heard of a Jedi? The Jedi were the commanders of the Republic. They were the generals. How? Like, not even, like, a story? Nothing? It's a little weird. It's one of the things that's always bugged me. Like, no, you've never heard of Yoda? Really? I mean, this whole thing did not happen that long ago. It was like, well, I mean, I'm assuming he's like 30? No, he's a little bit older. But what's the time difference between the Clone Wars and... It's like 30 years, right? I think it's like 30 years different. That's not that long ago. That's really not that long ago for them not to know who Yoda is. It's just weird. For nobody to know who Yoda is, it's really weird and annoying. And for them to call Jedi just wizards, it's really weird. But all right, we can skip that. So from there, she gives him a signet, which is the Mudhorn, which actually looks pretty cool. And I messed up this. And then they said, all right, no, we'll go through the tunnels and we'll reach, we'll try to escape through the lava river, right? Then we get to see the armorer kick the ass of a whole bunch of stormtroopers, which again bugged me for choreography reasons. Like, imagine you and 6 buddies are surrounding somebody, and then that person hits one of you. What would you do? Would you take a step back and be like, oh no? Or would you just... like open fire? I can't do a blaster sound like Would you just blast them into oblivion? I would have blasted them into oblivion, and they could have used the excuse that, oh yeah, she has Mandalorian armor, but I guess they didn't. But whatever. Point is, we know them. We know the armor is still alive and kicking, right? And collecting all of the all the remnant Beskar, because that's what she does. I also like. Oh, I forgot to mention this. I also like that we finally know what a foundling is. I thought it was kind of like Foundation, that was what they called the recruits or something. Turns out it's kids that are found. You was found. He's a foundling. All right, makes sense. Cool. Then we get to the whole fairy thing, and this bugged me for a lot of reasons. For those of you who don't know, lava is really hot. It's really hot. So if you're going to be in a river of magma or in a tunnel that has a river of magma flowing through it, it should be really hot. And at least Kara we can see a lot of skin in her. Well, her arms, her face. Apollo was in there too, and nobody was sweating. Nobody was like, oh, it's really fucking hot in here. And then they still had the audacity of showing Mando's heat vision, and he could see that there's stormtroopers outside of the tunnel. That thing should have been all red, because that thing should have been hot as fuck. You're in a tunnel filled with lava. Lava is melted fucking rocks. You should... Whatever. Then the IG droid decides to go out and commit suicide for reasons, because for some reason the stormtroopers know they were going to come out there. Out of apparently this whole giant maze of tunnels that's underneath the city, they knew that they were going to come out through that exit. And apparently it wasn't just one or two it wasn't just like a search party. It was all the stormtroopers that they had left. So they are out there. IG self-destructs, takes them all out, and once they're out of there, Gideon shows up on his ship and starts shooting at them, at which point the Mandalorian misses, which is stupid. How could you miss? Anyway, the Mandalorian puts on his jetpack and he takes down Gideon with explosives. So, assuming that Gideon is a terrible pilot, I guess it's possible. Now, holding on to that thing in the air, all right, sure. All right, sure. But whatever. He holds on, he explodes him, and Gideon's ship crashes. And so the Mandalorian, and he talks to his buddies. He goes back to Kara and Apollo, and he's like, all right, well, I guess that's all of them, right? They're dead. You know what that thing reminded me of the stormtroopers being there ahead of them? It's like a video game. Like in a video game when you open up a tomb that hasn't been opened up in 1,000 years, and for some reason bad guys are already in there before you. It's like, what the fuck? I opened this thing. How'd you get ahead of me? That's what it reminded me of. But whatever. So they decide that, well, everybody's dead, so I have control of this town, and for some reason Apollo starts calling Navarro a fine planet, respectable. I mean, that thing's a shithole. We can see it. It's a shithole. It's got dragons that attack you at night. It's got fucking lava rivers. You could do better. You should just go to the other green planet. It's way nicer, but all right. Kara decides to stay for some reason, and Mando decides instead of staying there and healing up or something, or going back to check on the armor or something, no, he decides, you know what? Kudos. Later. I'm just going to skedaddle out of here now that we know that all the stormtroopers are dead, because I'm guessing they probably have like a gaming radar that it shows you like red dots to see where the enemy is. That's probably what they have. I'm assuming, you know what? It's the future, where it's the past. It's the past, but they have better technology. It's a long time ago. It happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so that whole goodbye thing was really weird and really awkward and really rushed. I think that's the biggest thing. It was rushed. And then Mando buries his friend Quill, and he leaves. So, very injured Mandalorian buries dude instead of, trying to rest a little bit and getting help from somebody else burying the guy, but whatever. And as he's leaving, we get to see Gideon cut open the TIE fighter and with the Darksaber and just look at Mando go, which by the way was a really cool shot. And you're like, all right, this dude's actually a pretty cool bad guy, even though his plan was terrible and he was kind of an idiot and he's a terrible pilot. But whatever. Whatever. It looked cool. It looked like a cool shot. And it gives it potential for the future. So that's one of those things that you're like, well, I mean, Gideon doesn't really have a ship anymore, does he? So how is he going to leave? And he does have a Darksaber. So wouldn't you imagine that he can just stay there and maybe, I don't know, kill Kara? Or maybe, I don't know, kill Apollo? Maybe. I don't know. You would think. He's still a danger there. But, and also, how long was he out? He didn't really look injured. He looked like he just cut his way out of the ship. And that should have been pretty quick after the crash. So the Mandalorian burying a guy, seems like he had enough time to catch up and try to get the kid again. I don't know. Maybe it's too much. But this is why you always have to follow the Zombieland rules. Double tap, all right? Always double tap. Just because you took a ship down doesn't mean that he's dead. You have a jetpack. Go over there, pop, pop, tap, tap, double tap, always. But if he does that, then we don't have a show. So, all right, okay. I understand. So, that was the bad, all right? There was a lot there, and it's a whole bunch of ridiculous. And honestly, my big issue here with throughout the season is that they wanted to get things done. I really don't have that big of an issue with the story overall. I have issues with the execution because they could have gotten the exact same results, only made it in ways that are better, more logical, make more sense, and are more exciting. So, yeah, bad. Anyway, let's move on to The Mandalorian. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was very, very, very excited to see the Darksaber in there because it implies a lot of things. But since I've already talked about the Darksaber in another episode, and I've already talked about its supposed wielder, Bo-Katan Kryze, and her sister Satine Kryze, and her relationship with Obi-Wan, if you want to hear those, you can listen to any of the other Mandalorian episodes that I talked about. I break all that story down. So, now I'm going to talk about another character and a theory that I have for this show. So, and this character is actually closely related to the Darksaber because the last right now the character that we know has the Darksaber was Gideon, right? The character that we knew who had the Darksaber before him is Bo-Katan Kryze, which means that something happened during what we've heard in the show is called the Purge, and during one point at that Purge, Gideon ended up with the Darksaber from Bo-Katan Kryze. However, before Bo-Katan Kryze, there's a character from the TV show Star Wars Rebels called Sabine Wren. She's actually one of the ones that recovers the Darksaber, and she's actually the wielder of the Darksaber until she hands it over to Bo-Katan Kryze so that she can become the new leader of the Mandalorians. But there's something very interesting about this character. This character, by that character, I mean Sabine Wren, she created a weapon, because she trained as an Imperial Stormtrooper first, but she created a weapon before joining the Rebels and all that stuff. She created a weapon known as the Arc Pulse Generator. Now, at this, which by the way she nicknamed the Duchess after Satine Kryze, the Obi-Wan Kenobi girl there. Anyway, so the Arc Pulse Generator is a weapon that basically targets Beskar targets the Beskar in the Mandalorian armor and disintegrates the person using it. So after on, they found a way to reconfigure it to other elements, I guess. Well, to other materials such as the armor for stormtroopers, and that's how they got rid of a whole bunch of stormtroopers. But originally, it was created, and it was actually tested out on Mandalore. But it was created originally for the Mandalorian armors, for a way to defeat the Mandalorians. Anyway, she created this thing, and then afterwards, when she realized what they wanted to use it for, she tried to destroy it. Didn't really work, and so afterwards, one of the missions that actually ended up, she teamed up with Bo-Katan. They went there and they destroyed the second Arc Pulse Generator, and they deleted the plans for it. They deleted everything. So why is this important? Why is this relevant? Well, if you go back to the scene where they just have all the Mandalorian armor there, just sitting there where supposedly, and no dead bodies around, well, does that mean... well, to me, when I saw it, I was immediately like, dude, I didn't really see any blaster marks. I saw the broken glass of one, the broken face mask of one of them, but I didn't really see any blast marks. I didn't really see signs of a fight. Now, they could have fought somewhere else, and then the armor just gathered the materials, or just gathered the armor. But it seemed, I don't know where it happened, but again, it didn't really seem, it seemed really weird that the armor is there, that there were no bodies. So, is it possible that Gideon, when he recovered the Darksaber, or one of the reasons why he was able to recover the Darksaber, and one of the reasons why the Purge actually happened, is because they have this arc pulse generator, or a version of it, which could make things very, very complicated for Mando in the future. So, again, I'm not sure how that happened, but now you know that it exists. You know the Darksaber, where it came from. You know about these characters, which I'm hoping will make an appearance, or we'll at least hear what happened to them. I mean, we at least have to know what happened to Bo-Katan Kryze, because she was the last wielder of the Darksaber. But who knows? Sabine might make an appearance. Maybe we'll hear about, or maybe the arc pulse generator will show up at one point again. We don't know, but it's interesting and it's hopeful. And well, at least I found it interesting, so hopefully you found it interesting as well. And I don't know. There's potential for season 2. There's potential for this show to actually go somewhere with the story. Now that he has a villain on his tail, there's a whole bunch of backstory that I think that they need to cover. They can't just drop stuff like that and not cover it. So I don't know. I'm excited for season 2. I'm excited for season 2 and the possibility. Well, we'll continue with the adventures of Mando and the baby. I think we'll just have, again, very random episodes where they just meet random people and do random things while he's trying to get information and money. Well, he's trying to get money to survive and information about what the hell kind of species is this. But it's going to be a very different season, because I don't think they're still going to be on the run from the Empire. I don't know. It's weird. There's a lot of mysteries out there. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully you're looking forward to it too. That's it for today. As always, any comments, questions, suggestions, you can find me at Dario the Show on Instagram, or at SuperDario_World on Instagram. Thank you for listening. And you know what? I might come back a little bit later. I think I have the afternoon off, so I may come back a little bit later and continue with with the Good, the Bad, and the Witcher. So I don't know. We'll see. If not, for sure tomorrow. So as always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again later.